All right, we're going to get started here for the Ryan Fellowship webinar. I'm recording this webinar and I'm going to be sending this out to some of our prospective Ryan Fellows, and thank you for those of you who have joined in for the webinar tonight. My name is Kyle Smucker. I am the program assistant here at Accelerate Institute. I have a hand in quite a few different aspects of our organization and the program we'll be talking about tonight, the Ryan Fellowship, which is a fully funded 3-year fellowship for aspiring school leaders. I'm going to talk a little bit about Accelerate Institute before we get into the Ryan Fellowship. Our mission is to closing the achievement gap by creating high-impact school leaders who accelerate student achievement. We are dedicated to bringing transformational leadership to America's schools as the most critical strategy to close the achievement gap. And our primary emphasis is developing transformational leaders prepared to lead a school that accelerates student achievement. We have been in the education world for over 25 years. We got started with Inner City Teaching Corps, which was the first alternative certification program for teachers in the city of Chicago. We founded our charter school, Lane Locke Charter School, in 1998. We had some difficulties in our first years at Lane Locke, even though we hired the best of the best with teachers. It really came down to the school leader that made the difference to bring Lane Locke to where it is today, named by Chicago Magazine as one of the top charter schools in Chicago. From that learning and the research we did around leadership, our founder, Pat Ryan, decided that instead of replicating our successful charter school, we would start a leadership development program to produce more transformational leaders like the principal at Lane Locke. That was the seed that started the Ryan Fellowship in 2011. We also have an award for transformational school leaders called the Ryan Award. That we give out to principals across the country each year who have made great academic gains for their students. Our newest program is the Accelerator, which is similar to years 2 and 3 of the Ryan Fellowship, and it's a program for sitting principals, folks who are already principals, and they receive support from us during the school year. So, what do Ryan Fellows do? I am going to turn it over to Ryan Fellow Tom McPherson, who is going to talk a little bit about what sets the Ryan Fellowship apart.
The thing that appealed most about the Ryan Fellowship to me was that it looks at the school director or principal as a CEO. So instead of focusing on what exact curriculum to use for reading, for example, or using a certain template for coaching, the Ryan Fellowship looks at how do you become a great leader, a transformational leader in a school setting, because that's the defining factor of success for students.
All right, and Tom leads in Memphis, which is our largest region. If you didn't catch that quote, again, Tom was talking about how the Ryan Fellowship focuses on the school leader as akin to a CEO. Later on in the video, Tom talks about how when you finish the Ryan Fellowship, you know that you are 100% ready to take on that challenge of being a school leader and leading a team towards success. So what does a typical Ryan Fellow look like? before they accept the Ryan Fellowship. So we have some baseline requirements of at least 3 years of teaching and at least 1 year of directly managing adults. But we found that our Ryan Fellows actually go beyond that on average. Ryan Fellows have 6 or more years of teaching and 2 or more years of directly managing adults. And what I mean by directly managing is typically a role like assistant principal or dean of instruction where leaders are directly responsible for evaluating and managing teachers at their school. Another key requirement is experience in low-income schools. Ryan Fellows lead high-needs schools. And it's important for a fellow to have a prior experience in that and for that to really be their personal mission. We also have some qualitative characteristics that we look for in Ryan Fellows. These are what we call the building blocks of transformational leadership. These are the core traits that make for a transformational leader. I'll highlight the first 3 here, which are really important for prospective fellows to have. One is get it, which goes to the experience I referenced earlier. Ryan Fellows really need to understand the challenges of an under-resourced school or neighborhood and really get everything that comes with that. Strategic thinking and planning is also crucial for a Ryan Fellow. They'll be doing a lot of planning and for their first year principal in the program and being really strategic about how they approach this massive role of principal. Ryan Fellows are also, we see them as instructional experts of their school. So Ryan Fellows need to be experts in the field of instruction. So year 1, Accelerate Summer Institute is how it all gets started at the Kellogg School of Management. Ryan Fellows began their experience with 4 weeks at Kellogg, which is in Evanston, just north of where we are here in Chicago. No matter what region you're in, each Ryan Fellow begins their summer in Evanston, learning from some of the best of the best in business, civic, and education sectors. Some of the past leaders that we've had speak are Michael Mann from Uncommon Schools, who is also a Ryan Award winner. Rick Hess, who is a writer and education thinker. Chantel Wright, a leader with Achievement Prep. You'll hear from Kellogg professors like Nicholas Pierce. Tyson Kane from the Noble Network here, who does some training around hiring. And you'll hear from business leaders like Bryant Keel from the Potbelly Sandwich Works. All of these phenomenal speakers give presentations rooted in what we call the Accelerate framework. So all of our curriculum is rooted in this framework, which you might be interested in exploring. It's based on the patterns found in successful gap-closing schools and is used to assess a school's strengths, areas of growth, and opportunities. Successful schools we've found in our research excel at the 6 objectives, one being the high-performing team, constructive environment, aspirational environment, data-driven culture, black belt teaching, and the change management. Accelerate Institute works with each of our principals to help them internalize the framework's objectives and drivers to create a strong foundation for ongoing reflection and growth. Another aspect of the fellowship that Ryan Fellows are introduced to during Accelerate Summer Institute is the advisory model. Ryan Fellows are paired with an advisor who will work closely with them throughout their 3 years in the fellowship during Accelerate Summer Institute. Advisors identify their strengths and growth areas and give highly personalized feedback to each fellow. During the field study, which we'll get into next, advisors have weekly meetings and are in constant communication with the fellows. So after wrapping up the 4 weeks starting in July at Accelerate Summer Institute, in August, Ryan Fellows start their 7-month field study. And this is where Ryan Fellows will return to their region that they've selected. And we place fellows at field study sites where their title is Ryan Fellow. They'll work on the leadership team at the school. And this is where Ryan Fellows will be completing cycles of observation and deliberate practice. They'll be observing different components of the school and practicing their leadership skills and building what we call their leadership playbook for year 1 as a principal. The leadership playbook is a document that really gets to any detail you can think of that will occur during school leadership. Ryan Fellows build this during their field study, as I said, and at the culmination of the field study, they defend the leadership playbook to a panel here in Chicago. So it does have some traits similar to a master's thesis. But this is not just an academic document. It's really a document that fellows are going to be using on the ground as a principal the next year when they become school leaders. Ryan Fellows are thoughtfully placed in their field study sites. We go through a rigorous vetting process of each field study site. And Accelerate Institute is not tied to a specific network or a specific CMO. So there are many options for Ryan Fellows when it comes to a field study site. The only core requirement is that they do not do their field study site at their current school. And other than that, we are making sure that the school is a good fit for each fellow on a personal level. We work with quite a few well-known networks like Democracy Prep and KIP, but also a lot of standalone charters as well. On this map, you can see the current regions that the Ryan Fellowship is in: Memphis and Chicago, Milwaukee area. Our regions vary annually. We're actively recruiting for Chicago and Memphis now, but we are still finalizing some of the remaining regions for the upcoming year. So there are some possibilities for regions this year or regions in the future. Regions are determined by the need for transformational school leaders and funding, as well as the political and education landscape in that region. So after Ryan Fellows have completed their leadership playbook, they go into the principal hiring process. We will recommend them for principal if they complete the program. And the Ryan Fellow advisor will work with that fellow to determine what is the best fit for them as a leader. Now, each CMO or network will have different styles, and we'll help the fellow navigate the hiring landscape and use our connections and our network that we've built over the years to make sure that Ryan Fellows are aware of all of their options. We're happy to say that 100% of the past 3 classes of Ryan Fellows have all had principal offers. And so after a Ryan Fellow is hired, as a principal. They enter year 2 and 3, where they will remain with their advisor with some continued advisory support. Obviously, it's not as rigorous as during the field study, but it is still the same model of the highly personalized model with advisory and advisors complete monthly check-ins as opposed to weekly check-ins, and 3 in-person school visit and assessment cycles each year. Ryan Fellows also have opportunities for collaboration and professional development, where all of our Ryan Fellows from years 2 and 3 will come together and pass classes for our annual strategic planning retreat in Chicago and our mid-year strategic planning retreat as well. Each Ryan Fellow represents a $250,000 investment. Some of the components of that are the match salary. It is a fully funded program, including free tuition, where we will match the current salary that the Ryan Fellow is making during their field study year. This also includes the 3 years of individualized advisory support, as well as relocation support dependent upon the region, and any travel expenses to Accelerate Summer Institute or those professional development opportunities. There are quite a few Ryan Fellow-led schools at this point. We will be sending out this video as well as slides where you can take a look and see some of these schools across the country that Ryan Fellows are leading. As I said, Memphis is our largest region, and we have quite a few Ryan Fellows leading with some of the networks there, as well as here in Chicago, and some fellows who have relocated to other regions across the country. You can see that the Ryan Fellowship, just as with the field study, we work with many different models of schools, including Montessori school here, schools that focus on blended learning, schools that have more of a traditional no excuses model. It's really up to the leader and what kind of leader they are. Ryan Fellowship tracks results for 5 years, 5 years of the Fellows Principalship. And we're happy to say that Ryan Fellows have shown that they close the achievement gap in their first 5 years of principalship. Ryan Fellows grew an average of 1.3 academic years on the NWEA MAP exam last school year. We've also found that the longer students are in Ryan Fellow schools, the faster they grow. Another stat that we have begun tracking is retention rates, now that we have fellows who are in principal positions for several years. Last year, we found that Ryan Fellows are 18% more likely to remain at their school than the average first-year charter school principal. So at this point, I've gone through some of our organizational history and our program, kind of starting at year 1 with the Summer Institute all the way through year 2 and 3. And if there are any questions, you can type them in the chat box here, or otherwise you can email me at ksmucker@accelerate-institute.org for those of you watching the video. And I'd like to thank everyone for attending the webinar.